X100V, GR3. X100V, GR3. Which of these two mighty APS-C point and shoots do I prefer to use? Let's start the video now. So I get asked this question all the time, X100 or Ricoh GR, and I've been testing the Ricoh GR APS-C, which I actually own, a limited edition copy, and since the original X100, I've been reviewing both of these and using both of these for a very long time. And that's the question I get asked all the time, which one should I choose? And the funny thing is I'm currently now in that position where I'm deciding to upgrade my X100F and my older Ricoh GR, and I'm deciding, well, which one of these two should I get? And I did ask Ricoh Imaging USA, so thank you everyone over there for sending this out to me. I asked if I can have it for longer than just a couple of weeks. I said, can I have it for 6 months? And they said, sure. And then I asked Fujifilm, I said, hey, Mark, can you send me the X100V? You know, Ricoh, nudge, nudge. They sent me the GR3 for 6 months and they said, okay, you can have it on an extended loan, because I didn't want to just have it for a couple of weeks to sort of test out the specs, because I've had both of these. I'll put the links down below. I did an in-depth review of the Ricoh GR3 as well as the X100V. And I did a video test with this, I did a video test with this, and I've took tons of photos. I have written articles on the X100V as well. But sometimes even some reviewers, they'll have a camera for 2 or 3 days and then give you a conclusion, but they don't have an owner's perspective, and that's why I asked for an extended loan. And so in this video, I'm gonna basically talk out loud and think out loud sort of the benefits of having one of these two. Nothing has changed since the last time I reviewed these cameras. It's more of having it as part of my daily ecosystem, because I do see both of these cameras as everyday carry, or EDC. It's a matter of which one would I rather carry every day, which I already know the answer, which is going to be the Ricoh GR3, because it's just more compact and smaller and it just gets out of the way. Or which one, when I really need a camera, when I really need to shoot, which one can I depend on? And that is actually going to be either one of these two, because I can work around the quirks of these two cameras. Now, if you're going to just hand this camera to someone who's never shot with either of these ever before, more likely people are going to prefer the X100V because it has a viewfinder, it has an articulating screen, the autofocus is better, it's a brighter lens, and so there's a lot going for the X100V. But at the same time, the GR3, once you get to know how to shoot with it, it becomes super intuitive. And I know a lot of GR shooters that don't even look at their screen. They already know what they're going to get with the 28mm equivalent field of view, and without even looking, and that's myself sometimes. When I'm out shooting, I just put it down here and I shoot blindly, and I know I'm going to get the shot because you're just kind of at one with this camera. But it has quirks, and one of the major quirks is not having an EVF. And so let's kind of go through the specs of these and sort of see where you lie between these two cameras. Now, previously with the X100F that I have and the GR2, which I have the GR, but they're very similar, it was a lot easier to point people one way or the other. If someone said, look, I want more resolution, X100F, right? It was 24 megapixels versus the GR2's 16. But if someone said, I want a camera with a sharper lens, well, again, the answer is easy. The GR2 had definitely a sharper lens than the X100F. The F had a really unique lens, and I did really like it. Sharp in the middle, not so great when you focus up close, but from medium to far distances, it was fine. But it was a quirky lens. It was soft along the edges, but if you were trying to get that bokeh effect with your subject in the middle, it was fine. But if you wanted a sharp lens, the GR series has always had sharp lenses. And so back then, the decision was easier. Now it's much harder because, well, both of these lenses are super sharp now. The new lens on the X100V, it's sharper than the dedicated XF23F2 that I'm actually shooting this video on right now. So that lens has a similar issue as the older X100 lens, which is sharp in the middle. It has cool kind of characteristics, but up close, it's very soft unless you really stop it down. It's a quirky lens, but I also like this lens here, the XF23F2. I prefer it over the XF23F1.4, so I wouldn't change it for anything, but this lens is super sharp. But so is the GR3 lens. This lens is super sharp. I was worried that they would change the formula to its detriment, but they didn't. It's just as sharp. It's super sharp up close as well as far. If I had to pick between these two, which lens is not just sharper but better, I would still give a slight edge to the Ricoh GR, but you gotta remember, this X100V lens is one stop faster, and so that makes a big difference. And the GR lens, what you do get is, in combination, you have IBIS, or in-body image stabilization, so low light photography, where this one does not have. And so it's like, well, you get a slightly sharper lens, but you're one stop slower than this lens here. But you have IBIS here, but then autofocus. The autofocus on the X100V is superior to the GR, especially if you're shooting in low light. So you kind of want a combination of the two. So I have pictures where I was shooting at night with the GR3 and it was struggling. I had to focus a few times. I turn off the focus light assist. It's a bright green light, and you could see it from like across the street. So I just turn it off. So it really struggles to focus at night, but I can hand hold it down to like a 1/6 or 1/8 of a second, no problem. Where this one here could easily focus at night, but then you need to put this on a tripod or something to stabilize it, because, you know, once you're below a 1/60th of a second, so anything above a 1/60th of a second, in terms of image stabilization, even like let's just say to a 100th of a second, if you are very stable with your hands, no problem, X100V. But once you start getting lower, and especially if you're getting down to a 30th, a 20th, a 15th, an 1/8 of a second, that's where you're gonna see the advantage using the Ricoh GR3 and this IBIS. And so it's a really hard decision. It depends on your shooting style. So one evening when I was shooting late at night and I had both of these, I thought, oh, this would be a perfect time to test these two lenses or test these two cameras, and I actually just left the X100V in the car because I sort of saw the shutter speeds I was getting, like 1/8 of a second, 15th of a second. I thought, there's no way, and I grabbed the X-T4 instead and the GR, and both of them handled it like a champ because of the in-body image stabilization. So low light, you can focus with this, but you're really cranking up the ISO on the X100V. But then during the day, this is a great street shooter. Not only are you getting a hidden articulating screen here, but the autofocus is great. If it's too bright outside, then you just use the EVF. The focus is quick and snappy, although it's a little bit noisy because of the design of this leaf shutter lens. Half the lens is actually inside the body. And so if you are shooting video on this, I would recommend to either use like a lavalier or wireless lavalier system, or have a friction arm and move the microphone off camera, which I've done. I did a video using this for video. Perfect for talking head, just like this. It has HDMI out as well, so you can attach it to an external monitor, as well as have an input with the microphone jack. But for talking head, this is great. This camera has a lot of potential because with the IBIS, but video, again, in my review, I did do a video test on it, and not so great for video. So if you like to shoot video as well as stills, this is probably still a generation or two behind. The X100V, because it uses the same processor as the X-T4 and the XS10 and the X Pro 3 and the X-T30, this handles video amazingly, but with no IBIS. So you need to put it on a tripod or stabilize it somehow. And so picking these two is gonna be very difficult for me. My early thoughts already are, I have the X Pro 3, and so although this is lighter, although this is a leaf shutter, I have high flash sync, just like the Ricoh GR. The X Pro 3 is just a little bit more inconvenient to carry around as an EDC than the X100V, where this camera here is truly pocketable. You could just put it in your jacket pocket whenever there's, I always say, like weddings and funerals where, you know, you want to be very discreet with your camera. I always take the GR with me, either my film GR or my digital GRs, because it's just so discreet. You can wear a suit, and you could just have it in here and people don't really know you're carrying a camera. Or something like this, you need either a bag or you would just carry this around your neck. And so for an EDC, everyday carry, I probably would lean towards this, but when it comes to image quality, it comes down to focal length choice. If you need IBIS, because both these lenses are sharp, you can get the wide angle converter for this, which I feel should go wider than a 28mm equivalent. It should go to at least 24mm equivalent, if not 21mm equivalent, which the GR does. The GR's wide angle lens converter gives you a 21mm equivalent, which is great for really cool architectural type pictures. But this one here, you can get a 28 equivalent, which is the focal length I prefer. So you get a 28 f2 on this equivalent, 28 f2 on this, and this is a 20 f2.8. And in daylight, I got really amazing photos with this camera. So, you know, if I want to go out, shoot, and I want to be light and also have it around my neck. This does have a 3-point lug system, so you can also have this camera around your neck, but this is not as bang-aroundable, if you can say that, as the X100V. But if I'm bike riding and I'm taking pictures, I'm on vacation with my wife, and I want to just carry one light camera with me, it'll be one of these two. And if I need to shoot video, then I have to leave this at home and take the X100V. But if I'm only shooting stills, very difficult decision. Again, if my priority is autofocus, it's gonna have to be the X100V. If my priority is low light and stabilization and I don't wanna use a tripod, then it's gonna be the Ricoh GR3. And so that's my first initial thoughts of having these two. So wait for the next 2 or 3 months. I'm gonna come back to you, share with you some photos, share with you an owner's thought in terms of me having it, using it every day for months, and getting sort of the quirks that only an owner would recognize having these two cameras. And I'll let you know which one of these two that I'll either end up buying. Either one of these two, I might buy both of them, or I might not buy either of them. Really, it's up to these cameras and my ability to include it into my own ecosystem. And your ecosystem might be different than mine. You might pick something different, but I'm gonna let you know how I will use these two cameras. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any questions down below, ask them down below, but as well, check out my video on the X100V, as well as my article on Fujilove magazine, as well as my video on the Ricoh GR3. So thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you soon. Happy shooting. There's no point because these are both leaf shutter and they're super quiet. All right? All right.